What's up, everyone, and welcome to Project XTalk, an Xbox podcast, episode number 174, presented by Save the Game Media. I'm your host, Kevin, and on today's episode, we're going to talk all about better wording, how Gen Z hates consoles, Battlefront has launched, and some questionable things going on with it. We got some game announcements and RIP Master Chief Collection. But before I get to all that and more, I got to introduce my co-host, JamPackSam. How are you doing, my friend?
What is up, man? I'm doing very well. I hope you are as well. I am excited to be here once again. I've been playing a little Star Wars, been playing a whole lot of Hard Space Shipbreaker, so it's been a pretty solid week.
Yeah, we'll talk all about that. I've mainly been playing one thing, which I will dive into at length when we get to that section. But I'm excited. As I was saying today, looking around for the news. There's not any like huge news topics I feel this week going on in the Xbox sphere, but put together a fun show for everyone. So I think I got some interesting stuff here to talk about. But before we get started, Sam, I gotta tell you, I went to Blaze Pizza today. Are you familiar with Blaze Pizza?
I have one in my area. I have not gone, but I know the concept.
Okay. It's a Chipotle for pizzas. On Pi Day, which is today, they do $3.14 pizzas.
Nice.
Which is
like how big? How big are we talking?
11-inch pizza. So
in the year of our Lord 2024, you're getting a $3.14 11-inch pizza.
Yep, on Pi Day. That's right. As many toppings as you want. It's great. The problem is it's only available in stores. You have to physically go there. You can't place the online order. So I went there. I rolled up. I was like, I'm gonna grab my pizza for $3. Save a lot of money. I waited an hour to get up to the counter because the line was out the door. And when I left, it was out the door around the building. And I was like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. There is no pizza on earth that I'm waiting, I will say, more than 30 minutes for. And even 30 minutes is like, I need some Italian man to really throw his wrist out, getting that thing fluffy. So, so you got it. Was it worth it? Is the question.
It was delicious, but was it worth waiting an hour? I think I spent an hour and a half, 50 minutes in that range total in the establishment. That was not worth the time. For the savings, definitely not worth the time.
Yeah, no, I will hard pass on that. Plus, Blaze feels like one of those places where on a regular weekday, in and out, 5 minutes, you're like, how are these people open?
It is.
Like, that's the way that I see that.
And I said that as I was walking out, I'm like, any other time I've been here, I walk straight up to the counter, give them my order, get my pizza 5 minutes later, eat it, and I'm done within 20, 30 minutes at the establishment. So, Pi Day, tried you out. Probably not worth the amount you're saving on there, the money there.
No, hard pass.
But this isn't a pizza podcast. This is an Xbox podcast. So let's get through the housekeeping. We are live every Thursday right here on youtube.com/Save the Game Media. If you can't catch us live, we post every Friday morning on your favorite audio platform of choice. Wherever there should, make sure to drop us that 5-star review. Apple, Spotify, whatever your podcast service is, if they got a review button, hit us with it. It helps us in the algorithm. If you want to support us and get early access to all of our audio content and exclusive post shows and Patreon content, head over to patreon.com/Save the Game Media. Choose the tier that's right for you, like our current Patreon supporters. So thank you to Fabulous Brianna, Brianna's mom, Brianna's brother, Lindsay, Nikolai at Night, Cypher, Primus, Brendan Myers, Marcus O'Neill, Lillian, Mimi J, David Hotright, Dave Harp, the Xbox Expansion Pass, Alpaca Tom, Lee Navarro, and the Good Sir. Thank you all for your support. We appreciate each and every one of you. All right, Sam, we got the housekeeping out of the way. We got my pizza story out of the way. So I want to hear all about what have you been playing this week, except for Star Wars. We're going to save that for a little later in the show.
Yeah, we'll save that one for a little while. So I talked last week about how I started playing Hard Space Shipbreaker because it was leaving Game Pass. I saw it in there, and I've been in kind of like a funk. I've been busy. I just needed something just to play at the end of every day. And Hard Space Shipbreaker continued to be that game. The more that I play it, the more that I love it. I'm still not at the point where I'm going to dish out $30 to like buy it outside of a sale. Cause like it's 2 years old. I know what I'm getting. So it is on the top of the wish list though. Like as soon as the spring sale comes around and it drops back down to $15, picking it up immediately, continuing that. I love the little underlying storylines they've got going on in there. So I spent a lot of time with that this week. it's just a good game. I really enjoyed it. When I do play it again, I might try it out tonight on cloud just to see how it feels on mobile before
Mhm.
it leaves Game Pass. But I'm just looking forward to the day that I can play games on mobile, just to play them on mobile, stream them from the cloud. But yeah, Hard Space Shipbreaker, solid game. And then, Kevin, I got back into Bolt Gun.
Okay,
And
all
I know we
right.
talked about Bolt Gun a little bit last week, but after I hit my limit on Hard Space Shipbreaker, I was like, I'm just looking for something kind of doomy. You know, I've been looking at the Star Wars Dark Forces once again. I have the Battlefront Classic Collection, so I don't want to double dip on the Star Wars right now. But Bolt Gun's in Game Pass. I already owned it. So I'm like, all right, we'll go back and play it again, and continue my playthrough. And it's just such a good game. Like, it's just a really good boomer shooter,
Mhm.
and I'm having a really good time with it.
It's funny you say that because I tried to play it a little bit this week and then I got lost and like I'm like, am I just bad at this game? Is it because I'm playing
Yeah.
on the ally? Yeah, that's it's mainly the first one. I'm just bad at the game. Playing on the allies, like I don't have the big screen to like easily figure out like where things are. It's not that I'm like I want to eventually go back to it, but like I kind of lost my urge this week after like last week where I was feeling it a little more, and then I'm like, maybe some other time I'll come back to this.
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of a game like this is that it doesn't have an expiration date on it. Like, it's not like you have a season pass to finish, or it's not like you have some kind of content that's going to be gone at the end of the month or whatever. It's a good game no matter when you play it. Or if you don't feel like it's a good game right now, you can go back to it in a year or whatever. Um, but I am not knocking you for not knowing where to go in this game, because let me tell you, same most of the time. And certain levels are worse than others. Like the one that I'm on right now is pretty straightforward. But yeah, it's just something fun to poke around in. And then, of course, I got my code. Thank you, Aspire and Sandbox, for the code for Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection. So I'll talk more about that in a couple of minutes. But little preview. I'm enjoying it. I'm
That's
also
good.
not playing online multiplayer, so I've heard people
That's
complain about
good.
that. Yeah, but as a single player guy, big fan of this. But
Mm.
Gav, what have you been playing? What's been going on?
Yeah, so I have mainly been playing one thing, and I'll talk about it last because it's what I've been put most time into. But I'll start with the game I put the least amount of time into this week, and that's a Mail Mole. All right,
What is mail mole?
it's exactly what it sounds like. So it's a 3D platformer where you play as a mole and you deliver mail. Um, that's
Where do you find these?
it was
Who?
it was part of the bundle that I bought on Steam
Oh,
recently,
yes.
but it was a big part of me buying the bundle because I looked up, I was like, does this game look good? And I'm like, it does look pretty good to me. It's very interesting. You spend most of the time burrowed underground, and then you jump out of the ground to like hop up onto obstacles. You have like a dive button that you can like smash through obstacles underground. It's just a good, fun 3D platformer, collecting carrots, collecting strawberries. There's not really much story going on here, except that like we need power for the town so we can deliver the mail. Essentially, is what I've gathered so far. Um,
Huh.
yeah,
I mean, I'm looking at gameplay right now. It's a mix of a lot of different things just based on what I'm looking at. Like, I'm getting some Fury, some Fall Guys, some like
hmm
Mario platforming. It's very interesting. I'm not gonna lie, I don't hate it. So
yeah.
I'll let it slide. It looks pretty solid.
Don't hate it. That's all I'm looking for. Yeah, I'm liking it so far. Again, I think it's a pretty short game. I've already beat one of the worlds, so we're gonna chug away on that. I'm on lunch breaks on the ROG Ally. A game I did beat on my Ally this week, Lunistis. I don't know how to say this, but you play as a fox in this one, all right? And you might be seeing a pattern, right? 3D platformers for some reason really love to have you play as an animal. And I'm all about it. All right. Some may call me a furry. I say not so fast. All right.
Whoa.
I just like playing as animals in games. Okay. But you play as a fox, and this one actually it's more of a like a speed runner. Has some difficult 3D platforming moments in it, not gonna lie, where you'll go through these Chinese inspired gates as checkpoints. You're collecting these origami cranes. It's very interesting art style. Pretty short. It only has, I think, 16 levels, 8 worlds. So I really liked it. I thought it was a fun time. About 2 hours to beat, depending on how fast you are at the game. But once you beat it, you can unlock more animals to play as. But I'm not really looking to. Oh, I'm gonna play as the raccoon now. You know, I'm over it. I beat the game. Let's move on.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this one too, once again, I don't hate it. It looks okay. I just love the fact that your two games you're talking about so far are both under $5. Like they're in this range of like weird nebulous Steam games that are just kind of out there. And there's a lot of gold like nestled in that little area where it's not the big, it's not the small. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of trash, but
A lot of trash for sure.
also it's sitting at overwhelmingly positive on Steam. So I'm just saying, don't hate on Lunistis either if you're listening to this and you're like, what is Kevin playing? Because I just learned that I'm wrong. These are decent games.
Yeah, guys, it's not often I'm out here talking about like these small indie titles. When I do, take note, Luke, Captain Logan. All right, take note. Maybe check these ones out. Put down the Suicide Squad. Put down the Sea of Thieves and the Skull and Bones. Yeah, you know, there's some quality to be found out here.
Maybe one day I'll stop just firing guns in Halo and I'll play real games. Maybe one day. You right? Yeah, you never know. We'll see if we wake up.
Yeah. Pew pew. Okay. My main game I've been playing this week, to no one's surprise, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has encompassed most of my time. I am at 32 hours in the game. I am about halfway through chapter 13, and there's only 14 chapters, so I'm nearing the end of the game. And I gotta say, I know last week I was a little like, I'm not feeling a lot of the open world stuff. I'm not like, I wasn't in love with it. The more I've played the game, I can now proudly say that I do, in fact, love Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
I mean, that's what we love to see it, man. You know,
I did a lot more of the side content once I got to different regions, changed the environment. I really like the Coral region and the Nibble region. The Nibble region, especially, this won't mean anything to you, Sam, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Okay. You get a chocobo, which is the bird you ride. All right?
I know chocobos.
Okay. Yes. This one in the Nibble region can shoot water and you can fly through the air like it's a water stream and you're just going through the air. And I was like, this is the best way to travel in this game. I'm flying around. You have to be above water, but the whole area has like a river. It's so cool. So Ken, I did do the Proto Relic in Cosmo Canyon. I did that specifically because you told me to. I am doing the Proto Relics. That was part of the thing that I've done. At least I think I did the one in Proto. I at least started the Proto Relic quest, but I'm working the Proto Relic quest. Don't worry about that. I did a lot of the towers, did a lot of the life streams. I did a lot of the side content. Okay, especially because I was trying to get my relationship level up with the character I wanted for the gold saucer date scene. I did get my character in the end that I wanted. So mission accomplished. All right. We did the side content. Game's going great. I wouldn't say there's been an overwhelming amount of story in this game.
Interesting, really.
Yeah. And I think Hogue Law put out a tweet similar to that for anyone unfamiliar, where the pacing of this game is kind of slow at points. And then I don't feel like there's really much story until you get more than halfway through the game. Like, if you're going in this like, oh, remake, we are fighting Sephiroth at the end. Like, I can't wait to see what that dude's up to. You're in for a bad time, right? They say his name a lot, but so far he's not really here, all right? He's not doing much, okay? So
interesting.
Yeah, it's not quite what I expected. I expected a little more like a grandiose story, and I'm sure chapter 13, 14 are going to end on those notes. But this definitely feels like the middle of a trilogy to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it's kind of meant to do, right? Like it's designed by nature to be that exact situation where it's the bridge between 1 and 3, and like that's what it is. The thing that I've been seeing online, as somebody who is completely and totally removed from these conversations, are these people thirsting over these characters, and it's just like, do you all need help? Should I call an ambulance because they're so like, are you guys gonna be okay out here online? Because I've seen some things, man.
I recommend having a water bottle with you at all times playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, okay?
I mean, between Rebirth, between Rebirth outfits and then Stellar Blade gameplay clips that I just see floating around online, I think that everybody needs to just go download Hinge for a little while and just like start seeing if you can reinvest that energy a little bit. Cause man, y'all are crazy out there.
As someone in a committed and loving relationship, all right, respectfully, I just clicked a link for the Stellar Blade outfit that people were talking about because I hadn't seen it until literally 10 minutes before the show. And respectfully, I don't know if I can play this in front of other human beings, Sam.
Oh yeah, no, I would never. Absolutely. I mean, imagine if Walmart still had the demo kiosk. Like you've got a Stellar Blade demo up there, you're just looking up like that. No, I can't do it. No, absolutely.
Yeah, like Tifa's one thing, all right. And listen, my girlfriend knows I play some JRPGs. I remember playing a Trails game, and at one point, like a girl jumped into bed and was like bouncing up and down to wake the main character up. And she walked in right at that moment. I was like, this isn't what it looks like. I swear, like she's just trying to wake him up. All right. But if she walks in me playing Stellar Blade in that outfit where it's like, we're going to cover 3 things and that's it. Like that's what we're explained to do, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of takes me back to the original Grand Theft Auto 5 launch on the PS3 or the Xbox 360, where the loading screens were 10 minutes long, and it was typically like a stripper or like an OnlyFans level model doing like the peace sign, and then mom walks in with the laundry, and I'm like, it just go away for a little while. Yeah, it's a game. I can't help it. It's loading. What can I say?
I didn't make the loading screen, Mom. All right. Yeah, Final Fantasy Rebirth, great. I'm gonna beat it this weekend, I assume, if everything goes according to plan, and then we're gonna do a spoiler cast for it. Me, Kyle, and then probably the other Sam from No Limits are probably gonna sit down and talk about the game at length, what changed from the original. Although I don't know if Sam Heaney's played the original Final Fantasy VII, so that might be an interesting perspective. But stay tuned for that on the channel, everyone. But Sam, that's all I've been playing. So why don't we jump right into the news? Story number 1. Peter Moore did an interview recently, and he's talking about how Gen Z hates consoles, more or less. So former head of Xbox and Sega of America, Peter Moore, sat down with IGN recently to discuss a number of major talking points, including the future of consoles and Xbox putting games on other platforms. Peter Moore was asked about the future of dedicated hardware for games, something Moore himself said Microsoft was discussing as far back as 2007 when they were worried smart TVs would replace the need for consoles, stating, quote, "Is the PC, as it was then, a renaissance? And why do you need a bespoke piece of hardware that costs us, Microsoft, billions of dollars to install and hope to hell you get an attach rate of software of something out of your Xbox Live, your service, that would justify the losses of cash that hardware costs you?" Later going on to say, and then you think back to music, Zune and the iPod, bespoke devices that play music. Well, we don't have those anymore. Now the smartphone dominates. So gaming isn't immune to these changes in technology and viewing, listening, and playing habits. Gen Z is coming through and they're going, why do I need to spend $400 to $500 on a bespoke piece of gaming hardware when I've got my smartphone or my PC and I can do things there with a pretty decent controller? Sam, what do you make of Peter Moore's comments here? I think it was pretty interesting the way he's viewing the generational shift from millennials and the younger generation, how they view gaming and platforms.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a really good point that's nestled in here. The thing that I want to call out first is like the way that this was framed up from the social media point of view of like former Xbox execs as consoles are dead.
Yeah.
It's not that, because that's just clickbait, my friends. But what I do think is a very apt observation here is that you and I and anybody that came before us and anybody that's around our age of like 20 to 30 or beyond, like we all came up in this dedicated console or PC space. And we have machines that are dedicated to gaming, Series S, Series X, PS5. Even when you come to handhelds, like 3DS, Vita, Game Boy, all of these things we've always had. But you know, like I told you right before we started, I was listening to Luke and Captain Logan on XCP right before this, and Luke was talking about all of the people that are in his class that talk about what they played over the weekend, and it's like Roblox, and you can download Roblox on phones, iPads, Xboxes, PlayStations, PCs, whatever you want to play Roblox on, you can play that. And so now that you're getting to the point that 16 to 18-year-olds have kind of come into their adulthood playing games on their phones that are just as good in a lot of ways as a console game, the expectation shifts from what can a console provide me to what new games are out there. Like Warzone
Mhm.
Mobile, that's about to launch in a couple of weeks, is going to be just as big, if not bigger, than Warzone itself because it's just there on the device you've got. So I do think that the overall landscape is shifting. And we've seen that, with a lot of people going into PC, like PC is bigger than ever. Console seems to be kind of stagnating in terms of hardware sales across the board. Smartphone and mobile game is shifting its definition, from like a mobile game being Temple Run to a mobile game being Resident Evil 4 with iPhone now. Like you can literally say that. And so as you get more companies leaning into that hardware, making sure games can run well, that line's going to be blurred even more. So I think he's right in a way that's not quite as forward as he's making it, but I do think he's right.
Yeah, so I didn't. I when I read this because I did click one of those headlines, and I kind of leaned into that for the thumbnail here. But one of those, you got to do what you got to do.
Got to play
The
the game.
yeah, they play the game, but the headline was like, our consoles dead. Like Gen Z is killing the console market. Essentially, if you're familiar with all those millennials killing the housing market, millennials killing Arby's or whatever they like to blame us for. But when I clicked that article, I was surprised to see that what I actually read didn't really line up. He was talking about like consoles aren't going anywhere right now, but we have to look at what younger generations, their mindset, and reach them where they are. They may have a console, but what they prefer, and I see this all the time when I hang out with my girlfriend's family. Just this week we were at a birthday party, and the 5-year-old nephew was on an iPad playing Minecraft. They play games on tablets, and they're games that are available on Xbox, on PlayStation, and I'm like, I didn't even know you could play some of these on a tablet. Like, how are you doing this? And to your point, we're seeing less and less of a divide between those things. When you see things like Death Stranding, you brought up Resident Evil coming to smartphones, coming to Apple devices. I wonder at what point do we get game announcements during like the big showcases, and at the end it lists console, PC, and then mobile phones. Like, will it have like iPhone 16 listed? Like, you need this to play this game on your mobile device. And whether that is the best experience or not, like, will it play better on console? Will it be better with a controller as opposed to, Bluetooth touchscreen, however they do it on the mobile phone? It's a good question if that matters to the younger generation when they're like, well, I can save money. Things are super expensive, especially for younger generations. Like, we're we're struggling out here with the rising cost of inflation, the rising cost of living and houses and all this stuff. So you're looking, where can you save a buck and still get your entertainment?
Yeah, and I think, you're talking about quality, which I think is a really good conversation to have. And I see the emerging mobile market almost in the same way that I see the console market compared to PC, where if you want 300 frames per second at 4K resolution, ultra wide, like the best experience in terms of quality and fidelity, then yeah, you'll go with PC. If you just want something that is easy and you just buy the box and buy the game and you've bought what you need and you're ready to play, it might not be the penultimate version of the game, but it's the game. I
Hmm.
think that on a tier down from that, that's exactly what you see with mobile, with games like Resident Evil 4, where RE4 on PC with mods decked out, ray tracing on, all that stuff, RTX on, all these key terms that are out floating around out there. Like, that's the best. The console version's great. And then the mobile version works. They all tell the story. So if you're somebody who just has 50 or 60 bucks and you're like, I want to buy a new game, you can buy Resident Evil 4 across the board. Let's just say it's not on sale for the purposes of this illustration, but like, you can buy the game across the board for the same price. You get the same story, same game. You have the experience. A lot of people are fine with that. You don't have to have the best just to get the gameplay done.
And I think the platform that illustrates that more and more to me, that is a roaring success, is the Nintendo Switch, where you have
Mhm.
ports of things like The Witcher 3. Uh, Enthusiasts that want to play The Witcher 3 in its best version aren't going to buy it on Switch. But people that just want to experience the game they don't care about that. They're going to play it on Switch because it's convenient, handheld. Like maybe that's how they prefer their games. These things matter. The convenience factor is a big selling point more and more for consumers these days as they switch up the way that they like to game. Like, I would love to know, like, are millennials, maybe Gen X, are we more prone to sitting in front of a TV screen and playing games versus handheld gaming? Despite like growing up with handheld gaming all my life, like it is definitely my least preferred way to play a video game. I think the ROG Ally has gotten me a little more into it, but like, does Gen Z, does Gen Alpha, or I don't know if there's one below that, like, do they prefer mobile gaming? Do they prefer gaming on the go, short burst sessions? I would love to know that information.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have data obviously to like provide a backup for this claim, but I mean,
Mm-hmm.
just thinking about the people that like, let's say you turned 18 today and you've been playing games for 10 years. So let's say your parent handed you a smartphone when you were 8, 10 years ago. You've got decent games on there that you probably played while they were at work or you were just watching TV with them on the couch. I think that a lot of people where we grew up with PSPs and DSs, they grew up with iPod touches and early iPhones. And now you're seeing like that transition into, you've got more power, you've got the cloud, you've got stuff like Microsoft going all in on Xbox on cloud and adding those touch controls where it just feels like a natural way to play on mobile. And so I think stuff like that's really wise because Microsoft is meeting those people where they are and kind of preparing for that shift in a way. So I think it's right on. I think it's spot on.
Yeah. Well, he also mentioned another little fun fact. So when he was asked his opinions on if he would have ever brought Xbox exclusives to other platforms, he states, quote, "I do remember conversations about Halo on PlayStation. You're constantly looking. Look, if Microsoft says, wait, we're doing 250 million on our own platforms, but if we then took Halo as, let's call it a third party, we could do 1 billion. You got to think long and hard about that, right?"
You do. Yeah, I will answer Mr. Moore's question. You do. We've talked about this a lot over the past couple of years, and I
Hmm.
think it is a fundamental shift in strategy from companies trying to sell their boxes to companies trying to sell their games. And if you happen to have their box, they'll take your money to play other people's games now. Like that's kind of the shift that we're seeing. Um, and I think you're going to see a lot of companies follow the money. I think that's what we see going on with Microsoft. That's what you see PlayStation doing with Helldivers 2 on PC as well. Obviously, they're just the publisher for it, but clearly they're good with that agreement. So, yeah, you're going to see more of that kind of thing. And the idea of Halo on PlayStation, I know it's kind of like that Gears demo that we saw running on PS3 a couple of years ago, where there's actually a demo of, I think, Gears 2 or 3 running on
Hmm.
a PlayStation 3. And it's just weird to think about, the alternate reality that we could have had where everything's everywhere and people just enjoy games instead of fight over their boxes.
It's funny to me, especially when you take in his previous comments about Microsoft considering like what consoles going away in 2007. They were considering back in the 360 area when he was talking about this quote here, bringing Halo to PlayStation. So like these are conversations that companies have been having for decades now. And if you think it's just Microsoft, then I think that's a little short-sighted. Like Nintendo, PlayStation, they definitely have the conversations because at the end of the day, they're like, what's going to make us the most amount of money? And in some cases, that's keeping it exclusive, driving those people to your platforms when you have one of those big selling hits that PlayStation has been coming out with. We know Halo specifically, and you were talking about Gears on PS3. Halo, they had running on a DS at one point. There was a Halo version of that. Halo Master Chief Collection for PS4 has been a long, pretty substantiated rumor that was like a big thing they were considering doing. So this, when he said this, it didn't surprise me because it just seems like Microsoft has kind of been ahead of the ball in terms of their thinking, maybe not in terms of their execution. Like when you look at things like the Xbox One, right? And they were like TV, TV, TV. They were about a decade too soon, right? And because
Right.
now we're seeing like TV shows, movies based on these properties. If they had just waited, especially like again, the DRM thing, like nobody cares about digital, like we just don't even blink an eye. We're all digital, like mostly digital now, right? So Microsoft kind of has this track record of pushing things too soon before the consumers are ready for it. And it seems like they kind of knew that this would eventually be the direction they were going to go with. And it's already paying dividends. I don't know if you saw, Sam, but Sea of Thieves is currently the number one best pre-ordered game on PlayStation 5.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a very interesting trend to see Microsoft kind of be ahead of the game like that. And, everything is a bet whenever you're getting into it early. Like we saw with Mixer, where they thought they were going to be able to have a platform where live streaming is going to compete. Sometimes you can't predict what that market's going to do clearly. Like Facebook did the same thing. Then you've got Apple, innovating with like iPads. They're going all in on Vision Pro now, trying to get ahead of that VR AR curve. And I think a mirror situation happens in gaming where Xbox is all in on cloud, and they might have timed that one where they might have been a little bit early, but here we are 3 to 5 years later after cloud has really kind of come into the scene. Feels like we're getting to the point where it's more of a norm of how a lot of people play their games, or at least a growing number of people play their games. And PlayStation's competing in a similar way. You see Nintendo doing a couple of things with cloud streaming capability for games like Control and things like that. So, yeah, Microsoft has a trend of being a little bit too early, and I think that Halo example of going cross-platform is one of those things. So, yeah, once again, weird to think about the alternate reality that is floating around somewhere out there in the ether of like everything being everywhere.
Well, we'll see what happens in the next few years. Like Halo coming to PlayStation is probably still a conversation that's going on right now, along with the future of consoles. But we'll see what happens. I just thought that Peter Moore interview was pretty interesting. There's more things he talks about. If you want to go check out the full interview, that's over at IGN. But Sam, let's go talk about Battlefront Collection. Okay, so I titled this Battlefront Woes because Aspire has released the highly anticipated Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection today. However, the launch has been anything but positive. The game, which includes the two beloved Battlefront games from the early 2000s, currently sits at a mostly negative rating on Steam, with just 21% being positive. The game has been plagued with server issues, game-breaking bugs, connectivity problems, and lacking basic features such as the ability to invert controls. Now, before we get into that, you've actually been playing the game, so I do want to hear your experience firsthand, because all of this has come from online discussion and posts. So I want to know what your experience has been like.
So I've played probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours. So I'm not deeply into the overall experience. Uh, when I played Battlefront back in the day, to back up, I played it primarily on PS2 and PSP. I spent a lot of time playing this game. Very, very fundamental part of my childhood. Like, it was really the shooter that I played the most before I got into Call of Duty.
Mhm.
So whenever Aspire reached out, gave me a code for this one, I immediately went, downloaded it, started playing Battlefront 2, and I dove into instant action first, and then I started a Galactic Conquest because, like, got to get into the
It's the
Galactic
best
Conquest.
mode. Yeah.
It's such a good mode. So the instant action, I jump in. Actually, I started doing a training first to refresh myself on how this whole game works, get a couple of achievements knocked out that way as well. The immediate hit of nostalgia that you get, because this is one of those remasters where it's like a really beefed up PC port where better textures, same look though, same
Mhm.
overall feel. It feels like the old game, but it runs really, really well on powerful hardware. So it just took me right back to like capping the points, almost at flags, but capping the points, seeing the menus, hearing Duel of the Fates whenever you boot up the menu for Star Wars Battlefront 2. It's like, it's just such a good feeling. And then getting into the gameplay. I mean, once you get through the, I guess, learning curve of going from a game like Halo Infinite or Battlefield
Mhm.
2042 to getting back to that like early PlayStation era of 2005, 2006 game, it just plays really well. It's not super complex, but it's just fun. Um, so I started playing instant action after the training. I started playing the Galactic Conquest, and it's just such a fun time. I mean, it plays well for me, it runs well for me. The controls feel a little bit weird, but that's just I think just it shows its age, really.
Mhm.
It's just how the game is. Um, and so I have not played multiplayer because I'm just like a Galactic Conquest guy for the most part, but I do plan on playing multiplayer. The reports about the servers, really surprised, if
Yeah.
true, that they had 3 servers for this game at launch and like 10 to 20,000 people showed up to play it at one time. But multiplayer issues aside, because I totally hear people complaining, especially if you're on PC, because that's like a big online multiplayer audience right there as well. Like I hear the complaints there. Fundamentally at its core, such a fun game. So glad to have these games back on modern hardware, especially with Xbox. I'm popping achievements left and right. Very achievement heavy game where you're just getting stuff for like frenzy kills and things like
Mhm.
that. But yeah, cannot wait to play more this weekend. Just such a good time. I'm so happy this is back.
So I'm glad you're having a good time with it. I'm glad single player it holds up and gives you that nostalgic feel, and doesn't seem to be many issues based on your experience so far. Because when I woke up this morning, like I was excited to play this later this weekend with some friends. Like I literally asked my buddy yesterday, I'm like, "You're grabbing Battlefront?" Like we had a group of 5 people. We're all like, "Yeah, we're grabbing on Xbox so we can all play together." And to wake up this morning and see the reviews and reports that the game, especially if you are looking for that multiplayer experience, isn't really working all that well. I see people like their games constantly crash. I see people where they're not allowed to spawn in on the team. Like there were the
Mm.
heroes versus villains, and you choose the heroes but it wouldn't let you spawn, so you like the villains had no one to fight. Like there's a whole bunch of game breaking bugs that people posted on things like Reddit and Twitter that I've been seeing that just made me feel really cautious, so much so that I actually canceled my pre-order and got a refund this morning. And I'm like, I think I'm gonna wait for a spy. Like I'm still really interested, I still want to play this game at some
Right.
point. I think we're going to wait for Aspire to hopefully deliver some patches to the game and then pick it up maybe on a sale or when it's at a better place. Because right now, hearing that like the score cap for multiplayer is 100, but it's 64 players, so like each player dies 3 times and the match is over, so games take like 3 minutes or something. Like
Mhm.
it seems like the game might need a few tweaks here and there. Like it's great they put out such a faithful remaster, right, or a faithful port of the original games, but for modern standards, especially if you are going to up the amount of players, you might need to tweak some of the gameplay things.
Yeah, totally. And I made a video earlier today talking about Star Wars, and somebody commented, and they were talking about sucks that the servers launched the way they did, and the game isn't having this great launch. And I mean, I hate that I'm like this, but I just expect it at this point when a big game launches, and this is not really a big game, but big enough to be called big. Like when a big game launches, the first week is probably going to be a dumpster fire in terms of server stability. I'm just used to it at this point. I shouldn't have to be, but I am.
Hmm.
And I was like, give it 1 or 2 days. By the end of the weekend, it'll be okay. Like Helldivers 2 went through a similar situation where it was so popular,
I
people
can
couldn't
play
get
for a
in.
week.
Yeah. So it's like let's have some consistency in the way we treat these things. Like Helldivers 2 was struggling for a week, and then you have Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection that has like a rough launch. Give it a couple of days. By Monday, if things aren't better, yeah, we'll get out the pitchforks and torches. Like I get it, but give it some time. It's okay. It'll be fine. So I
Yeah,
have faith. I have faith.
I think that's why I'm more calm about this, because it is more of a I'm looking forward to it, but I have tons of games to play right now. Like I'm
Mhm.
completely okay waiting for this to get to a spot where I feel comfortable picking it up, because I want that nostalgia kick. I want to do some Galactic Conquest. Aspire, if you're listening, online Galactic Conquest, 10 out of 10. That's all I would. We don't need anything else. All right. You could shut the other servers off. Just let me do online Galactic Conquest. All right. That's all we need for this game. But
Yeah.
it does suck that people are having issues. It sucks that the game's reception has been pretty negative. I hope Aspire, even though they're a small team, can address these in a relatively quick manner, because people were looking forward to these. And it's awesome to know that like the games I loved as a kid, people also loved. It's like we all had this collective, like we didn't, none of us knew each other, but we all collectively knew Battlefront 2 was amazing.
Yeah, yeah. It's just such a cool thing to see I always talk about whenever I see something getting a lot of traction on TikTok, I know that it's kind of like a mainstream thing that people enjoyed. I've seen a lot of Battlefront TikToks today of people that are talking about the game, how good it is to like how it feels to go prone for the first time since 2005, and you're laying there as your stormtrooper, just that kind of stuff I love to see. And yeah, I hope they iron out the issues as soon as they can, and that people do come back to it, whether it's now or on a sale or whenever the servers get fixed. But it's such a good game, so worth your time, and I'm looking forward to playing a lot more this weekend. I will be playing a lot of this game, a whole lot of this game coming up.
Awesome. Well, hopefully next week you could tell me about your great online experience.
Yes, I will. I will definitely have to give the multiplayer servers a shot to come back and report from the front lines.
And if you want to, if you're having a great time and everything seems fixed, just let me know. Maybe I'll just grab it.
I will let you know. I will let you know. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to story number 3. We got some game announcements for Xbox. I don't normally include the games announced, but these were 3 pretty notable games, I would say, coming to the platform. Maybe not the first announcement, depending on who you ask. Sam might be one of those people. But this week we saw the announcement of a few games coming to Xbox very soon. First up, the Grandia HD Collection, which contains remastered versions of Grandia 1 and Grandia 2, is finally coming to Xbox on March 26th, so you don't have to wait long to get these 2 classic JRPGs. They'll be available for $35. Night Dive Studios has announced that System Shock Remake is finally coming to PlayStation and Xbox consoles nearly a year after its PC release. On May 21st, fans will be able to play this remake. And finally, WB and Player First Games have announced that platform fighter Multiversus is finally launching on May 28th after being taken out of open beta last year and delisted from stores. The developer said that the game will release with new PvE content, more heroes, and stages. They have also rebuilt the netcode from the ground up for better online play and switched to Unreal Engine 5 for better visuals. So, Sam, you probably don't care about Grandia. That's just a JRPG announcement. It's been missing from the platform. Awesome to see their continued support. System Shock, maybe we'll start there. I don't have much to say except if you like BioShock, maybe give this one a look, since this is like the game that kind of inspired those games.
Yes, yeah, that's what I've heard as well. I played the System Shock remake demo on Steam. I think it was part of like a Steam Next Fest or something that I dove in on. And what I've played of it and what other people have said online, it's very much so kind of like we talk about Bolt Gun, where it's got this old school difficulty to it, where it's not meant to be difficult, but it's just that game design has kind of evolved a lot through the years to be handholdy, but not like it kind of guides you more naturally where to go. System Shock, I've heard, can be a difficult game to get through in terms of like you've got to push a button on a wall that doesn't look like a button on a wall and you didn't know it was there and stuff like that. Yeah. But
yeah,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's just these games, like, they always look cool to me, but I know that they aren't my style of game. Like, I've seen my brother play BioShock, and I'm like, I feel like it's such a cool world. The premise is cool, but like the actual gameplay, I don't know if it's so much for me. And maybe System Shock, I like System Shock apparently inspires BioShock, right? But how inspired? Like, are they basically the same games, just like different settings? I don't know.
I haven't played enough System Shock to give 100% answer on that. I'll tell you that in terms of like the way the game plays, some like a little bit of environmental puzzle kind of stuff going on in there. Like, I think that those are like some of the crossovers. General vibe, I would say, is the biggest inspiration. Okay. But I definitely wouldn't say they're like super one-to-one comparable, like,
Great.
kind of, yeah. So again, call me out in the chat if I'm wrong, but that's the way that I see it.
Same. Let us know your feelings about System Shock versus BioShock. I would love to know that debate and information. And if you're excited for Grandia, let us know in the comments. But one I really wanted to talk about was Multiversus with you, Sam. All right. I saw your little short about Multiversus.
You did.
All right.
Did make one.
Did you expect this game to actually come back? Because I gotta say, I was pretty surprised.
I mean, who would think that keep in mind, over the past 2 weeks, Rooster Teeth has been shut down. Okay. Warner Bros. Shelved the Wile E. Coyote movie.
Mm-hmm.
There was another thing that happened that slips my mind that Warner Bros. Did game related. I forget what that one is. Do you remember what the third one is? The other thing?
I know they've been talking about live service, but they also put out Suicide Squad. So
They did.
there's
Yeah,
that.
maybe it's the all-in on live service. I feel like they canceled something else or they did something negative. But either way, they've been on this rant of like cutting costs, trying to consolidate, focus on what they know is going to work well and what is going to make money. Last year, they take Multiverses offline. You're telling me that out of everything, you got rid of Rooster Teeth, but Multiverses of all projects is the one that's going to be coming back, and you're going to keep doubling down on that. Wild to me. Not that I'm mad about it. Like it's just an interesting observation to see this game continue to come back. So no, to answer your question directly, I did not expect to actually see Multiverses in the light of day once again. No.
It's interesting because I love platform fighters. As anyone that knows, huge Super Smash Brothers guy, thousands of hours into Ultimate. Used to go to tournaments and play in the competitive scene. I love the Nick All Star Brawl games. I played the crap out of Multiverses in the open beta, and I gotta say, I think Multiverses is the worst one of the three in recent memory, being Smash and Nick All-Star Brawl. And that's just because like it felt so floaty. The moves didn't feel like they had impact. And I really thought the micro transactions were horrible in Multiverses. Like $20 for a skin, which I know some people say that's the standard. I think that's really egregious. Like the game needed a lot of work, but when they took it from open beta and was like, we're delisting it to work on the game, I genuinely expected it to never come back. I assumed WB would cut their cost, like we're going to shelve it, write it off as a tax write-off or whatever. Like we tried it, didn't really blow up. It's not the Smash killer we're looking for. To hear them come out earlier this week and say, you know, we got new PvE content. Not going to tell you what it is. First of all, I want more information from them. I want to know who are the new heroes. The new stages look cool. I want to know how they play in a competitive environment. Better netcode. That's fantastic to hear because Multiverses had some pretty rough netcode where they said they had rollback netcode, but I'd be fighting off on one side and then suddenly warp to the other side of the stage. It really needed some work from that perspective. And then they switched to UE5 for better visuals. I didn't really see that much of a difference. And when they're like, here's what it looked like before, here's what it looked like now. I'm like, okay, looks a little more vibrant, I guess. But I really don't have like high hopes, especially if they don't tone down the microtransactions and like make the battle pass better. I think that is imperative for this game to succeed. Like you need to make me feel like it's worth my time to play this game, not only from like a gameplay perspective, but from a reward perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like with Multiverses, it was already a crowded space last year, but now even when you're looking at, and I know they're not exactly the same, but like the general fighting game scene, there are more games for fighting fans to play out there right now with Street Fighter, Tekken, Mortal Kombat. Like they're all coming out, they're all out, they've got new content. And then when it comes to like the arcade fighters, yeah, you've got Multiverses, but why am I going to that? Like, what's the draw of that beyond the characters themselves? It's got to have a good gameplay experience overall. And if it is like you're saying, where the microtransactions are too far and it doesn't really grab people, will it be worth it to keep it online once again for a really long time? Like, is this going to be something that keeps people coming back? I don't know. It very well could. I don't even know what the player count for the Nick All Stars games are like. Like I know that there are two of them out there right now. Are they like doing well?
First one's dead.
Know?
The first one's
Okay.
dead. The second one's faring better, but still not great.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that if anything, the way I see it, those two games are competing with each other at this point, where it's like Multiverses and Nick All Star Brawl. Like maybe that's the whole goal, is that they want to have real competition there, and they know they can't take on Smash, but hey, maybe in between Smash Bros. Ultimate and then the next one that'll eventually come out, maybe they can have a little bit of the pie too on Pie Day. I don't know, but yeah, that's the way that I see it. Will I be playing this? No, I don't care anything about playing this. So sorry, you can catch me if you want Star Wars. Yeah, Multiverses. Nah, I'm out.
I'm gonna check it out again, see if I can feel the changes, see like actually dive deep into it for a few more hours because I am interested. I know Nakat, who was a pro Smash player and won Evo, for Multiversus during the open beta phase. He actually is the community manager over there at Player First, and he said that the netcode is the best online netcode he's ever played. And I trust his opinion from like a competitive fighting player standpoint. So I'm really interested to see like when it comes out how it does feel, because if it can give you a great online experience, like that is already more than Smash Ultimate is doing, where the online netcode for Smash Ultimate, for anyone that doesn't know, not great, has never been great. Even with LAN adapter, people still complain it's still not an offline feeling experience. So there's room there for a game to not sell as well as Smash Ultimate, because it's hard to get 40 million to buy a fighting game, right? But there are smaller platform fighters that can exist in that space. I think something like Brawlhalla, which has been very successful. It's not as big as Smash, but that's okay. Not everything needs to be a Smash killer, and I don't really like labeling things as Smash clones and in that ilk, because the games are different. Like, we don't say Mortal Kombat's a Street Fighter clone. They're just they're fighting games. Like, that's the genre. Platform fighters are a genre in the fighting game category. So let's just, multiple can exist. It just has to be good. Just has to be good, and players will come.
So let me ask you this. Do you think that if it is good, Multiversus could become like a mainstay of an event like EVO? Like, could you see that being something that happens?
I think it depends on what. Right now it's hard to say, because Tekken 8, Street Fighter 6, and Mortal Kombat all just came out with really, really good games.
Yeah.
So there's 3-year slots taken up already for something like EVO. And then they always like to have Guilty Gear Strive, and then probably 2 smaller titles. Usually like Under Night In Birth gets a slot. But there is room for something in there. Like, I know one year they had that what's that horse fighting game? I own it. I can't even. Doesn't matter. There's a horse
fighting.
There's a horse fighting. Yeah, you play as character. You're like your horses. You play. Yeah, there was that game. A Skullgirls I know was in there at some point. So there is room for it if it can find an audience. Maybe not on the main stage, because Smash can't even get there anymore. And whether you ask me, that's because PlayStation bought EVO and they don't want to help Nintendo out. But Multiversus could fill that slot of a platform fighter at something like EVO.
Is the horse fighting game Them's Fighting Herds?
Them's Fighting Herds. That's right. So Canada got it at the same time as you. That's right. I'm awful at that game, by the way.
Recent reviews on Steam, overwhelmingly negative. So,
oh wow,
not selling me too hard on that one. But
I wasn't that thrilled with it, to be honest. Like, I have played 2 games with my fight stick: Persona 4 Arena Ultimax, which is amazing, and then Them's Fighting Herds, and I was like, this game sucks.
It's really giving me My Little Pony vibes as well. I'm not sure how to feel about this. Feel like I should click off this so I don't get targeted ads. I think I'm going to leave that website.
Yes. Jam-pack brony.
Oh, let's not. I don't need that in my life.
All right. Well, good luck to Multiversus. That's all we got. Sam, you brought this next story to my attention, and I labeled it Rest in Peace Master Chief Collection, because a recent video from Rebs Gaming has caused a bit of controversy, and with it being claimed that development has officially ended on Halo the Master Chief Collection, despite receiving a small patch just last month. The last major update for the game was in July 2023, and Rebs Gaming reports that Microsoft told 343 to end development. Told them to end development because it lacked a consistent revenue stream. 343 tried to introduce Spartan points as a purchasable currency last June, but this was backtracked on due to fan backlash. So you brought this in. Seems people are really up in arms the fact that Master Chief Collection development has ended. What a concept.
I know. Yeah, that's I more so asked you to include this so I could go on my rant on the show. So I appreciate the inclusion. And I haven't seen like a ton of conversation around this online. I have seen it earlier in the week, especially whenever Rabs Gaming kind of broke this news, or at least shared this tweet out, and then comicbook.com covered a little bit. But the concept of live service games has really ruined the idea that a game can just be a game, come out, do its thing, and get almost 10 years of updates, and then be put on the shelf and say, like, we're done doing that. And the way that I talked about it in a video today is, are there things that I would like to see the Master Chief Collection do? Yeah. You can keep adding more stuff to it, bring Halo 5 into it, port Halo 5 to PC, Halo 3 anniversary. Like, you can do all of these things and make it an even better experience. But if 343 set out to do what they have provided, which is Halo 2 anniversary, ports of all of the main Halo games except for 5, all bundled together, all on PC, in Game Pass on both PC and console, with 10 years of updates, Forge capabilities. You've added tons of cosmetics into the game, built out this Spartan point system that's not even paid. Like, they have done so well bringing this game back from
Mhm.
being something that was almost irredeemable when it first came out, that was like an insult to what Halo was. Now it is the best way to experience Halo games. And the fact that it's not continuing development after, again, nearly 10 years. I mean, this November will literally be the 10-year anniversary of the Master Chief Collection coming out on Xbox. It doesn't have to last forever. Like, we can say, this is great, they are done, because 343 only has so many people. It's time to move on. Like, now shift into that ongoing support for Infinite, full development, full send on the next thing. Or if you keep that segmented team, start working on Halo 3 anniversary, do something else, find a new project to work on, because freeing up that talent means more games are going to be coming our way. And it's not just more Master Chief Collection, because
Mhm.
nostalgia can only carry you so far. We just don't need more. It's sufficient the way it is. It's fine.
I agree with you. I was surprised when I dug deep into this that people didn't understand that development eventually has to end. Like, they can't continuously work on old games forever. And that seems to be a hard concept, but I'm very happy with where the Master Chief Collection has ended up. I think it's an amazing collection of amazing games, and like the online is perfect. I remember when Halo Infinite launched, right? And I was getting burned out playing the same 6 maps over and right.
Yeah,
I was like, let's boot up Master Chief Collection, go back there. Like, there's a billion maps. There's all the different game types. There's the different play styles between game to game to game. Like, you can have so much fun in Halo Master Chief Collection that I don't really understand what else people are looking for from it. If they do keep a small segmented team, like you said, and this is just pie in the sky thinking, and they were like, what if we make Halo 3 anniversary and it's like a $10 upgrade to get it the Master Chief collection, right? Like, you just put it in the Master Chief collection, then you have that same like switch between the graphic styles that you do with the other ones, right? Like, if they continuously did something like that, I think that would be pretty cool and kind of add longevity. Or you could just buy it separately if people don't have the Master Chief collection but just want the Halo 3 anniversary. Like, there's ideas here that a small team could realistically accomplish and then still not really support the game, but kind of give people a reason to go back to it.
totally. Yeah. I mean, Halo 3 anniversary built in as an add-on for the Master Chief collection for 10 to 15 bucks. Totally. Maybe 20 bucks. Might even be down for that. But yeah, no, I think that they've done great with it. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do next with the future of Halo. Obviously, I'm a big Halo guy, so we'll see where it all takes us. But yeah, there's no problem with the Master Chief collection ending. And if you didn't want it to end, you guys shouldn't have yelled so loudly at Spartan points,
Yeah, should
because
have bought them.
that's the truth. Like, you didn't have to buy them and other people could have, but hey, you guys didn't want that. I also didn't want it, but I didn't care either way. So here we are. We are now sleeping in the bed we have made. So welcome to the future. That's where we're at.
I'll also maintain that Halo 5 not as bad as everyone says, all right? And that they had a monetization system in there. So, we let that one die too.
They did. Multiplayer was fine. Campaign, it was whatever. Yeah.
Agreed. Agreed. Well, that's all the news we have for this week, Sam. So why don't we jump into listener questions? First up, we have Alpaca Tom, who writes in about Summer Games Fest. He says, with Summer Game Fest around the corner again, what changes, if any, does Jeff need to do to make a more compelling show?
I mean, in my opinion, it's tough to make a more compelling show because you still have publishers and developers and companies that are doing their own little separate things. And so, in an ideal world, we really do get to the point where Jeff has recreated E3 in a new brand where everybody agrees this is the thing we're all doing. Because right now, we still have like Here's Summer Game Fest. IGN has an indie thing coming up. Nintendo's doing a direct. Oh, look, Capcom's doing a showcase. And they're all like random times, random days of the same similar couple of
Hmm.
weeks. So I would really like to see just synergy across the entire ecosystem. But that's not a Jeff problem. That's like a collective marketing team collaboration problem.
Yeah, and I think last year was certainly better because I remember the first year he did Summer Game Fest. It was like 2 months of showcases, and then you got things like Coke Media coming out and just having like a sit down discussion and like, what does this have to do with video games? Why are we watching this? This isn't a showcase. So I'm glad like they've slowly been improving year after year. I think it's hard for Jeff because June is when PlayStation's gonna have their showcase. Xbox has their hour and a half, 2 hour big showcase. So what's left for him to get for his show really is like the third party announcements. And do they have a big enough one that will excite people as much as what PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo can show off? Like that's always questionable. If Jeff comes out, and my biggest criticism of these shows is pacing. Oftentimes, Jeff will front load with like three big announcements at the start, and then you get the middle section where it's like, look at this weird mobile game that's paying for the show that we have to include in here, or like this MMO that no one's ever going to play. And then you get like this weird pacing that just really trashes the middle of the show, and then he'll end with one or two big announcements. He needs to have a consistent, like, I would rather big announcement, few smaller announcements, big, and like just keep up a cadence of when you think people are maybe getting low, bring them back with something big.
Yeah. I think that the pacing of the show can always be tweaked and improved. That goes for Summer Game Fest, Gamescom Opening Night Live, the Game Awards, especially the Game Awards. Like the
It's only
pacing for
3.5 hours, bro.
yeah, I mean, sometimes, why use many word when few word do trick? Like let's keep this thing rolling a little bit occasionally, but all in all, I think it's still a solid show. It's gotten better year over year, so I'm excited to see what they bring with this year, as always.
I believe it's June 7th this year, and I think he said it's at 5 p.m. Eastern time this year. So
Oh.
probably a live react you can expect from Save the Game Media over here. So check that out, people, whenever it happens in June. So Ghostly March writes in with two questions. Says, why do you think so many games release absolutely broken or a mess these days when that wasn't the case in the past?
Once again, good question. I mean, for me, number one, there shouldn't be an excuse when it comes down to it. The game should release in a state in which they are ready. And the reason behind that varies from game to game. For some games, it could be that they had unrealistic publishing and release date expectations where they had to get the game out based on arbitrary dates and numbers that are thrown out by an executive. They did what they needed to do to meet those needs, and now they're paying the consequences. For others, understaffed development teams that just couldn't get the job done, or maybe fooled themselves into thinking they could do more than they did. In the case of a game like Star Wars Battlefront, I don't know what happened there. You're releasing a great fan favorite game. You're a big company that's making this thing happen. I think that's just a drop ball. So I think that maybe it's a mix of like a lot of management trying to get involved in things, and just from so many cooks in the kitchen, oversight on some of the small details. That's the way I see it.
Games are also a lot bigger these days. I think we need to remember that. Like, what's crazy about those Star Wars Battlefront Collection, which I assume is the reason this question got asked. Like they're Xbox original games, and yet they're 56 gigabyte. Where are the gigabytes coming from? What did you do to these files?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be 4K textures, right? Like that's what I assumed it was, is like all these really big texture packs.
Yeah, crazy though. That's so big compared to the original, because I know the
Yeah.
original you can play on Xbox, no multiplayer, but it's very small. I do also want to point out that there were a lot of broken games in the past, and you didn't have the benefit of patches. Like, didn't one of was it Bungie's first games like delete your computer or something? Like
I remember reading about that. Yeah, there was an issue with one of their early games.
Yeah, there were games that completely messed up, didn't work, and they had to reprint them, and it's like, oh, you have to go trade in your copy or you're out of luck. Like maybe it's just more prevalent now because there's more games than ever. Like before, you'd have big gaps, which actually leads to his next question. He says, do you think there are just too many games coming out now, and that going back to the PS2, GameCube, and Xbox era style releases with long gaps between huge games would actually benefit people more?
I mean, so going back to the first question for a minute, because I had a thought on that.
Yeah.
I think that also one of the risks associated with being able to put out updates whenever you want is that you no longer have to put out the good game and it's just like a
Fair.
rip off the band-aid. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you can kind of release your game in a broken state. People will still buy it and then you can fix it later. I feel like there's an element of that as well. But to this point about going back to bigger gaps between games, I think it would be beneficial. We talk about Call of Duty all the time, where we don't need an annualized Call of Duty, but how do you balance that with the expectation of ongoing content that's constantly flowing? Because even though we all talk about how there are too many games, we wish that we would have more time to play some of these backlog games. I can't give games the attention they deserve. At the same time, the truth is, if we all had a non annualized Call of Duty, and it did not get ongoing live service style content and updates, and it launched with 14 maps and that was it, and then maybe you got 4 map packs with 4 maps a pop, that's not enough content to satiate people after they've been playing games for 10 years where they have gotten new content constantly coming into the game. So I would love to see it go back to that, like how we've had multiple years between one Battlefield and another. I think that's been great, even though Battlefield is in a weird spot right now overall. But I just don't know if you can go back to like the way that it used to be with the PS2, GameCube, Xbox stuff.
I think it would benefit consumers' wallets not having, like, if there were weeks where no games came out, I think that would benefit consumer wallets. I don't think it would benefit AAA games that much. I think it would benefit smaller titles, probably, to not have to compete as often with bigger games. Like they could say, okay, well, Call of Duty has November. Let's put ours out in August because there's nothing coming out in August. If the games industry was more spread out, I just don't think that's ever going to happen. There's too much money in the industry. There's too many studios. There's too many games coming out. Games, like, everyone is always like, oh, like as you said, there's too many games, not enough time. That's just for the games we're all interested in playing. There's so many more games that come out and no one cares about them. Like
Mm-hmm.
thousands and thousands of games that sell like 100 copies, and that's just what they do.
Yep, absolutely. Tons of them.
So, last question for the show. Brandon writes in, says, what are your thoughts on plug pullers or rage quitters in any type of online combat game? Follow up, what about those that misuse or abuse the character creation system? They expanded this point. Apparently, there is a glitch in Tekken 8 right now where people make or I think it was Tekken 8. They make a create a character, and you can expand the props on your character to block the screen of your opponent so they can't see you, and then you just beat them to death.
So I'll do a two-parter. Plug pullers, rage quitters, and online games. There has to be some kind of punishment system for this. Master Chief Collection has one in there where if you drop out of a game multiple times in a row, like if you have to go help mom with the groceries, you're okay, bail out, go do what you got to do. But if you do it like 3 to 5 times in a row, you'll get a 10-minute ban, I think, from being able to jump into online multiplayer. And then that stacks if you continue to do what you're doing. I'm assuming that that comment is also in reference to the Helldivers 2 stuff where people were kicking people out of the game because they weren't following a specific way of playing, like they weren't
So
using
lame.
stratagems or whatever the situation was. In that case, those are just assholes in online games. And even I think the head of Arrowhead called them out of like, why are you doing that? That's not cool. So yeah, definitely don't agree with that kind of stuff. In terms of the abusing character creators to win in online fighting games, that feels like a patch problem. Like they got to patch that out to where you can't make whatever as big as it can possibly be. So I think that's more on the developers because people are going to push the boundaries in any way they can. It's the
Mhm.
same thing as finding like a trash can you can glitch yourself into in Call of Duty and being able to shoot out but not be shot. Like that old school glitch stuff. People did that all the time. They had to patch those out. That's just kind of part of the fun of an online game. So that's the way I see it.
Yeah, I remember Halo 2 doing super jumps or the sword cancel
Oh yeah.
floating in the air, glitching out of the map and then sniping people. Like these things have always existed. I don't personally care about rage quitters. In fact, we often take pride in making people quit when we're playing FIFA and it's like we're beating them 6-1. We'll literally just yell, "Leave, why are you still here?" Like I don't care if you rage quit. I like if you're not having fun, go find a new match. Like hopefully you'll have fun in that one. I'm having fun. That's all I care about. Playing Smash a lot, people would there was a thing where you would avoid getting a loss if you like took the switch out of its dock and then put it back in because it would disconnect you, but it was a whole thing. Like
Huh.
yeah, I don't know what's going on there, but I don't really. It's annoying if I'm like in the middle of something and you either make my game crash, but if it's just affecting you, I don't really care. If you're
Mm,
cheating, get out of here. If you're kicking because you're lame and like you don't have the right build, get out of here. Let people have fun. But
yeah, I
play with
agree.
your friends. That's all
I
I gotta
agree.
say. That's all we have for this week's show, Sam. So thank you for joining me as always, my friend. I think we had a good show. We're gonna go talk about Halo episode 5 and 6.
Yes.
That's what we're gonna talk about. So if you want that, head over to patreon.com/savethegamemedia. You can get that there. Until next week, though, Sam, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube, Threads, TikTok, Instagram, doing all that stuff, talking about games, making content. So if you want more of me for some reason, you know where to find me. But as always, you can find me here every Thursday talking to Kev. Always a good time.
You do want more of him. Trust me. You do.
Oh
Uh,
God.
you can find me at the Muffin Mon on Twitter and Threads. It's a 1-7I and 0-7A. Follow us at Save Game Media over on those platforms to stay up to date with all of our latest content. Until next week, we'll see you.